The red Mustang. Lily watched the crimson blur rip down Willow Creek Drive. Even through the dusty window pane of the bakery, the sunlight glinted off the Mustang's polished curves, a predatory gleam in its chrome headlights. It was a beautiful beast, all raw power barely contained, and it always made Lily's heart skip a beat. She knew exactly who was behind the wheel. Arthur. She pressed her forehead against the cool glass, the yeasty aroma of rising dough momentarily forgotten. Arthur Harrison. He was the kind of handsome that belonged on magazine covers, not delivering day-old bread to the elderly residents of Harmony Bluffs. His smile could melt glaciers, and his eyes, the exact shade of summer sky after a thunderstorm, always seemed to hold a hint of something lost. The Mustang growled to a halt a block down, outside Mrs. Gable's Victorian-era monstrosity, all gingerbread trim and disapproving gargoyles. Lily imagined Arthur hopping out, sunshine catching in his golden hair as he wrestled a bag of sourdough from the passenger seat. He probably charmed Mrs. Gable with that smile, even though she likely only offered him a prune Danish in return. A sleek black sedan, so polished it looked like a raven's wing, purred to a stop directly in front of the bakery. Lily straightened, curiosity piqued. This wasn't a Harmony Bluffs kind of car. It reeked of city money, of whispered deals and power lunches. The driver's side door swung open, and a woman unfolded herself from the leather interior. Ms. Stella. Lily recognized her instantly, of course. Everyone in Harmony Bluffs knew Ms. Stella, even if they'd only seen her picture in the Harmony Herald, plastered next to articles about the new community garden or the annual pie-eating contest. Ms. Stella, the fiancée. She was even more striking in person. Tall and impossibly slender, she moved with a feline grace that made Lily feel like a clumsy foal. Her dress, a vibrant cerulean that somehow didn't clash with the peeling paint of the bakery's facade, clung to her like a second skin. Sunglasses, so large they obscured half her face, perched on her nose, radiating an aura of cool detachment. Miss Stella didn't bother glancing at the bakery. Her attention was focused solely on the red Mustang parked down the street. A flicker of something unreadable, annoyance, disdain, crossed her perfectly sculpted face. She tapped a crimson fingernail impatiently against the roof of the sedan. Lily ducked back behind the counter, suddenly feeling self-conscious in her flour-dusted apron. She pretended to busy herself arranging day-old croissants, her heart hammering against her ribs. Why was Miss Stella here? She never visited Harmony Bluffs. The bell above the bakery door jingled, and Lily plastered on her most welcoming smile. Good morning. What can I get for you? Miss Stella swept into the bakery, radiating expensive perfume and an air of barely concealed impatience. She removed her sunglasses, revealing eyes the color of emeralds, sharp and assessing. They flicked over Lily, lingering for a moment on her messy braid and flour-dusted cheeks, before dismissing her entirely. Is Arthur here? Her voice was smooth, polished, like the surface of a glacier. Lily swallowed, trying to sound casual. He just left to make his deliveries. He'll probably be back in an hour or so. Miss Stella's lips tightened. Of course. Always running around, playing errand boy. She made it sound like an insult. Tell him Stella stopped by, and that I need to see him. Immediately. She turned on her heel, the clack of her designer heels echoing in the small space. As she reached the door, she paused, glancing back at Lily with a predatory gleam in her emerald eyes. And tell him it's important. The bell jingled again, and she was gone, leaving behind a lingering scent of expensive perfume and a heavy silence. Lily stood frozen behind the counter, the croissants suddenly feeling like lead weights in her hands. Arthur's Mustang had started up again. Lily peered through the window, watching as it accelerated down the street, a flash of red against the muted greens and browns of Harmony Bluffs. As it passed the bakery, Arthur caught her eye. He grinned, a flash of white teeth against his tan skin, and gave her a quick wave. Lily managed a weak smile in return, but her stomach was churning. Stella's words, "It's important," echoed in her head. What could be so important that Ms. Stella, The woman who seemed to exist in a different stratosphere than Harmony Bluffs would make a special trip. She watched the Mustang disappear around the bend, the sound of its engine fading into the distance. Something felt wrong, deeply, unsettlingly wrong. A prickle of unease crawled up her spine, a premonition that something terrible was about to happen. She knew Arthur. He was a good man. He didn't deserve whatever storm was brewing. Lily stared at the empty street. The image of the red Mustang seared into her mind. She had to do something. But what? Whispers and wheels. The bell chimed Stella's entrance, a sound that barely registered for Lily as she dusted the countertop. But instead of making a beeline for the tempting pastries, Stella hovered near the wall-mounted phone, her brow a tight knot. Lily tried to ignore it, focusing on arranging the day-old loaves, but the sharp edge in Stella's voice cut through the bakery's gentle hum. "I need it now," she spat into the receiver, each word a controlled explosion. "Soon isn't going to cut it. I don't give a damn about your complications. We had an understanding." Lily feigned preoccupation, yet every fiber of her being strained to eavesdrop. "Don't even think about threatening me," Stella hissed, her voice a silken threat. "I possess insurance, remember? And I'm not afraid to cash it in. Give me the funds, or things will become decidedly unpleasant." The line went dead with an abrupt click as Stella slammed the phone down, the plastic echoing her barely contained fury. For a moment, she stood rigid, her chest rising and falling rapidly, before regaining her composure and smoothing the expensive fabric of her skirt. A knot of unease twisted in Lily's gut. Debts? Blackmail? This went far beyond a spat between lovers. Stella turned, her gaze snagging Lily's. A flicker, was it anxiety? Regret? Danced across her features before settling into a saccharine smile. "Everything all right, dear?" she purred, the sweetness sounding utterly false. "Just peachy," Lily responded, holding her gaze. "Keeps us busy, you know." Stella gave a mirthless chuckle. "Indeed. Well, I must dash. Arthur will be wondering where I've wandered off to." She offered a final, searching look, then made for the door. Instead of heading to her own vehicle, Stella veered toward Arthur's classic Mustang, idling at the curb. Lily's brow furrowed. What was she up to? Stella leaned against the driver's side, pretending to admire the lines of the car, but Lily spotted her hand dipping behind the front tire. She crouched down, her back strategically obscuring her actions from the bakery window, appearing to tinker with something near the hubcap. A cold dread began to bloom in Lily's chest. She edged closer to the window, peering intently. Stella was undeniably tampering with the wheel. Her movements were quick, clandestine, as if desperate to avoid detection. Lily couldn't quite discern what she was doing, but a spark of reflected sunlight hinted at metal. A wrench? A screwdriver? Was she deliberately? The entrance of a customer shattered Lily's focus. When she glanced back, Stella was upright, dusting off her skirt. Her eyes met Lily's through the glass. The brittle smile returned, sharpened to a predatory edge, followed by a brief, almost imperceptible wave before she turned and strode purposefully to her own car, a polished black sedan a little way down the street. The engine roared to life, and she vanished in a plume of exhaust. Lily remained rooted to the spot, her mind reeling. She had to warn Arthur, but what if she was reading too much into it? Could she be mistaken? Perhaps. Yet the phone call, the surreptitious actions, they painted a disturbing picture. Her gaze returned to the Mustang, gleaming innocently in the afternoon light. It appeared innocuous, but Lily sensed a profound wrongness. She checked the clock. Arthur would soon arrive to collect the day's leftover bread. A decision had to be made, and swiftly. The image of Arthur, his face bright with easygoing charm, flashed in her mind, and a surge of resolve washed away her doubts. She couldn't permit anything to happen to him. With a bracing breath, Lily snatched her jacket and bolted out the door. She had to locate Arthur, and she had to alert him before calamity struck. A dangerous discovery. Lily jolted, her pulse a frantic drum against her breastbone. Miss Stella's frigid smile seared itself into her memory, a stark contrast to the sun's golden warmth spilling into the bakery. This mental image clashed violently with the memory of Stella crouched by Arthur's Mustang, her hands engaged in actions that now screamed malice. "Brakes!" Lily rasped, the word a bare exhale. Bile rose in her throat, tinged with the echo of her father's gravelly Cuban-accented lectures on automotive safety. "Mija," he'd boom, wiping grease on a shop rag. "The brakes, they're paramount. Forget the flashy radio. Forget the gleaming paint. If the brakes fail, you're merely cargo inside a metal tomb, hurtling toward whatever fate awaits." He'd meticulously showcased the brake lines, meticulously tracing their course with a toughened finger. "These, Lily, these are your salvation. A leak, a cut, means zero pressure. Zero pressure, zero stopping." He made her memorize the vital signs: brake fluid levels, pedal responsiveness, the telltale sounds of a healthy system, hammering into her the fundamental truth. A car wasn't just transportation. It was a responsibility, a potentially lethal weapon if disrespected. A strangled gasp escaped Lily. Stella hadn't been admiring the car. No casual pat had been offered. Sabotage. The metallic flash she dismissed as sunlight dancing on chrome twisted into a sinister vision. Steel kissing rubber, the precise slice of a compromised brake line. Her limbs felt leaden. She had to alert Arthur. She glanced back at the bakery, the once inviting aroma of baking bread, now a saccharine stench that churned her stomach. Every wasted breath was an eternity. Arthur could leave any moment. The horrific image of him backing out, pressing the useless pedal, flooded her mind. Pure, unadulterated panic choked her. She bolted from the bakery, heedless of Mrs. Petrov's bewildered, "Lily, where on earth are you rushing off to?" The afternoon sun, once comforting, now felt like a physical weight, pressing down as she raced toward Arthur's car. Heat waves distorted the parking lot, blurring the familiar lines of the parked vehicles. Her vision darted wildly, desperate to spot him. He was nowhere. Dizziness threatened, and she swayed against the sedan, gasping for air. "Think," she commanded herself. Where? The downtown meeting. He always used the lot behind the First National. She had to get there. Her gaze snagged on a dilapidated bicycle propped against the bakery wall. Miguel's delivery bike. He wouldn't begrudge it, surely, not with lives at stake. Without hesitation, she snatched the bike, threw a leg over the seat, and began to pump furiously towards downtown. The gears protested with a metallic whine, the tires alarmingly soft, but she drove on, her muscles screaming. The wind tore at her hair, carrying the gritty taste of exhaust and desperation. Each rotation of the pedals was a silent plea. For Arthur's life, for her to arrive in time. His smile filled her mind, the endearing way the corners of his eyes crinkled when he chuckled. That image fueled her desperate scramble. The city became a blur of motion, a deafening onslaught of horns, shouts, and construction. Weaving precariously through traffic, she narrowly dodged a delivery truck. Her knuckles shone white as she gripped the handlebars, her focus laser-locked. Arthur. She had to reach him, before it was all too late. Unheard warning. The front door crashed open, the bell's clamor a jarring contrast to the frantic drumbeat in Lily's ears. The aroma of gently stewed beans and crisp plantains, typically a source of comfort, pressed down on her, a symbol of domestic peace shattered by the encroaching nightmare. "Mommy," she cried, her voice catching in her throat. Elena Rodriguez emerged from the kitchen, a wooden spoon her only weapon, her expression etched with concern. "Lily, my love, what is it? You look ashen." "It's Arthur. He's in danger." Lily struggled for breath. "Ms. Stella, I think she tampered with his car." Elena sighed, lines of worry deepening around her eyes. "Lily, please, I'm preparing dinner. Abuela will arrive shortly, and you know her expectations." She began to turn back to the stove. "Tell me later, Carino." "No, Mommy, you don't understand. This is serious. I saw her near his car yesterday, and what Papa taught me about brakes, it all clicked into place." Lily's words faded. A vision of Stella's gloved hands burned into her mind. Elena stirred the beans, the spoon's clatter a steady, dismissive rhythm. "Lily, Miss Stella is a respected woman. She wouldn't do such a thing. Besides, Arthur is perfectly capable of looking after himself. But Mommy, Lily reached out, clutching at her mother's forearm. You have to believe me. What if I'm right? What if he's hurt because of this? Elena gently disengaged Lily's grip. Mihija, your imagination is a boundless gift, but sometimes it carries you away. I'm sure everything is fine. She patted Lily's cheek absently, her focus elsewhere. Now go wash up. Dinner will be ready soon. Lily stood paralyzed, watching her mother's retreat to the simmering pots. The familiar scent of sofrito, once so welcoming, now felt like complicity. How could her mother remain so unperturbed, so unwilling to listen, when Arthur's well-being hung precariously? She knew she needed to articulate the events more clearly. She could recount every detail, Stella's peculiar movements, the metallic flash, the gut-twisting dread. But the words remained locked within her, a tight knot of fear constricting her chest. And her mother, already preoccupied, lost in the choreography of preparing dinner for her own mother's exacting standards. A wave of fierce frustration surged through Lily. The chilling realization crashed over her. She was on her own. She whirled around, fleeing the house, the screen door snapping shut behind her. The setting sun painted the street in fiery hues, transforming the familiar landscape into a canvas of orange and violet. She had to warn Arthur. No other option remained. Her gaze darted to the corner where she'd left the bicycle. Still there, leaning awkwardly against a lamppost. This time, she didn't hesitate. She seized the handlebars, her fingers gripping the worn rubber. As she pumped down the street, the wind roared in her ears, and a plan began to coalesce. She didn't know Arthur's precise address, but she knew the general vicinity, the affluent neighborhood bordering the park. She would scour the streets, searching for his Mustang, determined to reach him before disaster struck. The thought of Arthur's easy smile, the laugh lines around his eyes, spurred her onward. She couldn't let anything befall him. She simply wouldn't. The city spun around her, a dizzying blur of light and motion. Horns blared, buses thundered past, and the distant wail of a siren echoed, a grim reminder of what was at stake. Each block brought her closer to Arthur, closer to the unknown. Fear still lingered, but was overwhelmed by an unwavering resolve. She was just a kid, a girl prone to flights of fancy in her mother's eyes. But she knew what she'd witnessed. She understood Stella's potential for malice, and she refused to let Arthur become a casualty. She wouldn't let Miss Stella triumph. Race against time. The slam of the screen door was Lily's mother's final word, each echo a harsh syllable. Lungs aching, she bolted down the sidewalk, a knot of dread twisting in her stomach. The pavement blurred beneath her pounding feet, each step a frantic plea. Arthur. She had to get to Arthur. The afternoon sun, a molten weight, pressed down on her. Sweat slicked her brow, stinging her eyes, but she blinked it away, her focus laser-locked on the hazy outline of Arthur's place at the far end of Willow Creek Lane. It felt impossibly distant, the finish line of a desperate race against. What? She refused to picture the wreck, the mangled steel. Cars zipped by, metallic sharks in a concrete sea. She dodged between them, deaf to the blare of indignant horns. Time was bleeding away. Each gasp was a desperate wish. Nearing the house, she spotted it. The cherry-red Mustang, gleaming like a malevolent jewel in the driveway. And beside it, Arthur and Stella. Her heart plummeted. They were about to leave. No! The sound tore from her throat, a raw, unraveling thread lost in the breeze. She surged forward, legs pistons pumping, breath a ragged rasp in her ears. Arthur was swinging the driver's side door open. Stella, impeccably dressed in cream, was already ensconced in the passenger's seat, adjusting her shades with a delicate click. Arthur! Lily shrieked, her voice cracking, desperate. Don't go in that car. He froze, one foot still on the ground, turning towards the sound. Confusion clouded his features as he recognized her. Stella, too, swiveled, her expression a mask of carefully cultivated boredom. Lily stumbled onto the manicured lawn, sucking in air in ragged gulps. "Arthur, listen. That car, it's not safe." He straightened, concern edging out the bewilderment. "Lily? What's wrong? Are you okay?" Stella sighed, a sound like air leaking from a tire. "Arthur, really? What is this all about?" Lily ignored her, her gaze riveted on Arthur. "The brakes," she choked out, a trembling hand pointing at the Mustang. "They've been tampered with." "Stella, she did it." Arthur's face drained of color. He flicked his gaze between Lily and Stella, disbelief warring with a nascent, unsettling suspicion. "Lily, what are you talking about?" His voice was strained. Stella emitted a brittle laugh, devoid of its usual warmth. "Really, Arthur, this is absurd. The girl is clearly hysterical." She reached out, her scarlet-tipped nails grazing his arm. "Let's go, darling. We're already running late for the opening." Lily shook her head fiercely. "No, Arthur, you have to believe me. I saw her. This morning, at the bakery, I saw her fiddling with the brakes. She thought no one was looking, but I was there." The laughter died in Stella's throat, her eyes hardening, the polished facade shattering to reveal something cold and dangerous. Arthur stared at Stella, his expression a blank canvas. "Stella? Is this true?" The air thickened, heavy with unspoken accusations. The birds had fallen silent. A distant lawnmower sputtered to a halt. Everything hung, suspended, waiting for her reply. The accusation. Keys spun idly from Arthur's fingers as he stood on the porch, a puzzled frown creasing his brow. Beside him, Stella, a vision in yellow, radiated warmth, her laughter like the delicate chime of crystal. The long shadows of approaching evening stretched across the emerald lawn, a stark contrast to the scene's apparent serenity. Lily felt a wave of discomfiture wash over her. She burst into the tableau, winded and rumpled, an unwelcome intrusion. "Lily? What in the world?" Arthur's confusion deepened. He flicked his gaze between Stella and Lily, his brow now a knotted question mark. "You said my car?" Stella's mirth evaporated. Her head cocked slightly, the smile wavering, uncertain. "Darling, is everything all right? You look quite distraught," she inquired, yet a subtle edge, a frigid undercurrent only Lily detected, lurked beneath the honeyed tone. Lily swallowed, her pulse a frantic drum against her ribs. The words were a leaden weight in her mouth. "Don't drive the Mustang," she choked out, her voice betraying her fear. "Stella, she sabotaged the brakes." A palpable tension hung in the air, thick and stifling. Arthur's jaw hardened perceptibly. His gaze darted from Lily to Stella, seeking some clue, some explanation in their faces. The bloom on Stella's cheeks had faded to a pasty white. The wind chimes were still. Silence had fallen, as complete as if the world itself held its breath. "That's utterly ridiculous." Stella spat, her voice pitched too high, trembling with what could have been outrage. She moved closer to Arthur, her hand reaching for his arm. "You don't actually believe this, do you? It's preposterous." Arthur gently disengaged her hand. "Stella, please. Let's hear what Lily has to say." His tone remained level, but Lily discerned a hint of something else in his eyes, a nascent doubt, a seed of suspicion. Lily drew in a deep, steadying breath, attempting to corral her scattered thoughts. Convincing him was paramount. This wasn't some trivial squabble or a fit of jealousy. It was about his life. "I saw her, Arthur, this morning before my shift at the bakery. I walked past your house, and Stella was crouched under your car, doing something I couldn't quite make out. Not until I saw her manipulating the brake lines. It didn't click until I heard about the firing at the bakery, the sabotage." Stella's eyes blazed with sudden fury. "You were spying on me?" she snapped, redirecting her venom. "This is insane. I was checking for a leak. The mechanic mentioned a possible fluid leak the other day. I don't know the first thing about cars, but I thought I'd have a quick peek." "A leak?" Lily challenged, her voice rising in incredulity. "With wire cutters in your hand? And why keep it a secret from Arthur?" Arthur's gaze swung between the two women, his expression etched with concern. He was clearly struggling to reconcile the conflicting accounts. The contrast between Stella's elegant demeanor and Lily's desperate accusations was jarring. He raked his fingers through his hair, a gesture of mounting frustration. "Lily, I appreciate your concern," Arthur began, his voice tight. "But this is a grave accusation. Do you have any tangible proof?" "Proof? No, not exactly," Lily admitted, her voice shrinking again. "But I know what I witnessed. I saw her under the car, Arthur. I saw what she did to the brakes." The image of Stella's intent focus, the glimmer of steel in her hand, was seared into her memory. She squeezed her eyes shut for a moment, trying to transmit the urgency that consumed her. Stella gave a dismissive snort. "This is beyond belief. That you're even humoring her, Arthur. She's green with envy. Just look at her. She's likely been pining after you for ages." The word stung like a physical blow. A hot flush climbed Lily's neck. Was this how it appeared? A pathetic attempt to derail Stella's relationship? Arthur frowned, his expression hardening. "Stella, that's enough," he said with an edge. He turned his attention back to Lily, his gaze softening slightly. "Lily, I need you to be absolutely honest. Is there anything else at play here? Any reason why you might have misinterpreted what you saw?" Lily locked her gaze with his, her eyes pleading for understanding. "No, Arthur. I swear to you, I wouldn't fabricate something like this. I'm telling you the truth. Please just get the car checked. Please." Tears threatened to spill. She could feel herself losing ground. And Stella stood there, a subtle smile playing on her lips, a chilling gleam in her eyes that sent a tremor down Lily's spine. A secret call. Arthur felt the weight of Lily's words, a cold stone settling in his gut. He looked from Lily's earnest, albeit frantic, face to Stella's wide, slightly too innocent eyes. He needed a moment, a breath, to process the impossible. Okay, he said, raising his hands in a gesture of peace. "Everyone just calm down. Lily, thank you for the concern, but I need to check this out myself. Stella, would you mind?" He trailed off, unable to meet her gaze directly. Stella's painted lips tightened. "Of course, darling. Anything to ease your mind." But the warmth had vanished from her voice, replaced by a brittle edge. Arthur walked towards his beloved Mustang, a knot forming in his temples. He ran a hand along its sleek, cherry-red hood, a familiar comfort. He popped the hood, feigning expertise as he peered into the engine compartment. He knew next to nothing about cars, and even less about sabotaged brakes. "What exactly am I looking for?" he asked, stalling for time, his voice strained. Lily hovered nearby, her eyes darting nervously between Arthur and Stella. "I don't know exactly. Just anything that looks out of place. Cut wires, loose connections." Stella remained by the porch steps, her arms crossed, her expression a carefully constructed mask of annoyance. "Honestly, Arthur, this is ridiculous. Are you really going to let this Baker girl dictate your life?" Arthur ignored her, focusing on the labyrinth of hoses and wires under the hood. This was all he needed. He reached into his pocket, his fingers fumbling for his phone. He needed proof, something concrete to either confirm Lily's accusations or put them to rest. He couldn't just take either of their words at face value. "Just give me a minute," he mumbled, pretending to adjust a cable. He angled his body to shield his actions from Stella's view, his heart pounding against his ribs. With trembling fingers, he dialed 911. The call connected quickly. 911, what is your emergency?" a calm voice asked. Arthur lowered his voice to a near whisper. I need to report a possible case of vehicle tampering. I suspect my car's brakes may have been sabotaged." "Sir, can you give me your location?" He rattled off his address, his eyes flicking towards Stella, who was now tapping her foot impatiently. He could feel her gaze burning into his back. "And can you describe the situation?" the operator asked. I received information that my fiancée may have tampered with the brakes. I haven't confirmed it yet, but I want to have the car inspected as soon as possible. We'll dispatch an officer to your location immediately. In the meantime, do not operate the vehicle. Is there any immediate danger?" I don't know," Arthur admitted, his voice laced with anxiety. "That's why I'm trying to find out. Stay on the line, sir. I'll keep you connected until the officer arrives. Arthur ended the call and quickly deleted the call from his phone's history. He took a deep breath and straightened up, trying to appear as nonchalant as possible. Well, he said, turning to face Stella, I don't see anything obvious, but honestly, I wouldn't know what I was looking at even if it bit me. Stella's eyes narrowed, her gaze sharp and assessing. So you're satisfied? Can we finally go? Not quite, Arthur said, a newfound resolve hardening his voice. I'm going to call a mechanic, just to be absolutely sure. He watched Stella's reaction closely. Her carefully constructed composure seemed to crack slightly. A mechanic? Arthur, really? This is beyond absurd. You're embarrassing me. Humor me, Stella, he said, his tone firm. He pulled out his phone again, pretending to search for a local mechanic. Stella's agitation was growing palpable. She began pacing back and forth, her high heels clicking sharply on the porch tiles. This is ridiculous. I have a lunch appointment. I can't believe you're wasting my time like this. Lily, who had been silent throughout the exchange, stepped forward. Maybe you should just let the mechanic check the car. Stella, if you have nothing to hide, what's the problem? Stella whirled around, her eyes blazing with fury. And what's your problem, Lily? Why are you so determined to ruin my life? Before Lily could respond, the distant wail of a siren cut through the air. Arthur felt a surge of relief mixed with dread. The cavalry was on its way. The truth, whatever it was about to be revealed. He watched as Stella's face drained of color, her carefully crafted facade crumbling before his very eyes. Justice served. The rising shriek of sirens shattered the fraught stillness of the driveway. The blood had drained from Stella's face, leaving it a ghastly white. She dabbed at her brow with a silken square, the gesture spastic and uncontrolled. A statue carved of granite. Arthur watched the approaching cruiser, its whirling lights splashing crimson and azure across the meticulously kept lawn. Two figures in uniform emerged, their faces impassive masks. The lead officer, a woman with steely eyes and a severe braid, addressed Arthur. Mr. Harrison, we received a report of suspected vehicle tampering. A curt nod. Arthur gestured towards the Mustang. Yes, officer. Lily noticed something off about my car. I reported it as a safety measure. A glance acknowledged Lily's vigilance. The officers approached the vehicle, their practiced gazes sweeping over it. The younger officer, a man with an almost fastidious air, knelt, his flashlight beam probing the front wheel well. A soft, breathy whistle. Brake lines. Severed clean. Definite sabotage. Stella gasped, clutching at her throat. That's preposterous. I'd never. Her voice evaporated, hollow with insincerity. The officer turned her unwavering gaze upon Stella. Ms. Davenport. Stella Davenport, she whispered. Ms. Davenport, can you explain why Mr. Harrison's brake lines appear to have been deliberately cut? Stella stammerade, here meticulously assembled facilitating. I know nothing. Someone's trying to set me up. Her gaze flickered to Arthur, a desperate plea. But Arthur remained an unreadable fortress, his features hardening with disappointment and burgeoning wrath. The younger officer straightened, brushing off his knees. No question. Sabotage. He displayed a small, gleaming shard encased in plastic. Found this lodged near the cut. Looks like a mini hacksaw blade. Lily's pulse hammered in her ears. The reality of the situation crashed down, the weight of the law palpable. A tremor danced down her spine, born of fear and justified relief. The lead officer's voice was unyielding as she addressed Stella. Ms. Davenport, you're under arrest on suspicion of tampering with a vehicle and endangering Mr. Harrison's life. You have the right to remain silent. As the Miranda rights were recited, Stella's face twisted in disbelief and rage. This is insane. You can't be serious. Arthur, tell them. Say I'd never do such a thing. Finally, Arthur spoke, his tone leaden with pain. Stella, I don't know what to believe anymore. The evidence is damning. He couldn't meet her gaze, the betrayal too profound, too agonizing. As the officers moved to cuff her, Stella offered only token resistance, her cries rising in pitch. "Arthur, please. Don't let them. I love you." A second cruiser arrived, two more officers emerging. They assisted in guiding Stella toward the patrol car, her heels rapping sharply on the paved drive as she was escorted away. Lily noticed the discarded silk scarf, a crumpled emblem of her shattered charade. Once Stella was secured in the back seat, the lead officer approached Arthur. "Mr. Harrison, we'll need you to come down to the station and make a formal statement." A solemn nod, his gaze fixed on the departing vehicle. "Of course, officer." He turned to Lily, his expression gentling. "Lily, thank you. You may have saved my life." Lily managed a wan smile, the adrenaline ebbing, leaving her shaky and queasy. "I'm just glad I could help, Arthur." The officer offered Lily a reassuring smile. "You did a very good thing, young lady. A very good thing." As the cruisers sped away, their sirens receding into the night, Arthur stood solitary in his driveway, the pristine Mustang now a stark monument to the danger narrowly averted. The air, once thick with the promise of a future with Stella, now tasted of bitter treachery. A hollow victory. Justice offered little comfort against such profound deceit. A lasting friendship. The stark whiteness of the hospital room amplified the heavy quiet. Arthur's gaze lingered on Lily, burdened by a complex emotion she struggled to name. Gratitude was undeniably present, a profound appreciation that seemed to saturate the confined space. Yet it was twinged with shame. Shame for his blindness, for how easily he'd been deceived. "Lily," he finally rasped, his voice strained. "Words fail me after what you did. You pull me back from the brink." Lily fidgeted. "I just saw something amiss. I couldn't stand idly by." The chilling memory of Stella, a lurking darkness near his beloved Mustang, brought a sudden tremor. Even so, Arthur insisted, taking her hand in a surprisingly firm grip. "Your courage was extraordinary. I'm indebted to you beyond measure." The lively sparkle, usually dancing in his eyes, was extinguished, replaced by shadows of pain and disillusionment. Stella was in custody, the police having gathered overwhelming proof. Arthur, his voice a monotone, had provided his statement, recounting their history, the intricate web Stella had spun around him. He felt utterly foolish, manipulated as a pawn in a game he hadn't even known he was playing. The engagement was severed that afternoon. His call was brief, clinical, and devoid of sentiment on his part. He laid out the facts, presented the evidence, and delivered his decision. He denied Stella the chance to plead, to justify, to beguile. He simply ended it. The ensuing void was immense, a hollow, echoing space. Yet within its depths, a fragile seed of hope took root. Discharged the following day, Arthur was physically intact but emotionally wounded. He drifted through the next few weeks in a haze, mechanically performing the rituals of daily life, his customary zest replaced by subdued introspection. The weight of Stella's deception pressed down on him. He began to question everything he had believed about her, about their relationship, about himself. One afternoon, Lily's phone rang. It was Arthur. Though a trace of weariness lingered in his voice, it was laced with a revitalized spirit. "I've been reflecting," he began, "on what transpired, on everything. And I've concluded I need to act, to do something truly meaningful." He outlined his idea, a foundation dedicated to empowering disadvantaged youth, offering them education, support, and opportunities otherwise out of reach. A sanctuary where they could feel secure and valued. "I'm naming it the Lily Rodriguez Foundation," he declared, his voice thick with feeling. "After the woman who not only saved my life, but, in many ways, opened my eyes to what is important." Lily was rendered speechless. Tears welled, blurring her vision. "Arthur, I don't know what to say." "Say you'll join me," he urged. "Say you'll be involved. I need your insight, your passion. You perceive the world with a clarity I lack." And so, Lily immersed herself in the project with unwavering enthusiasm, navigating the intricate bureaucracy, connecting with local organizations, and crafting programs designed to genuinely impact young lives. Working in tandem, They unearthed a shared purpose, a mutual respect that transcended the circumstances that had united them. They spent hours brainstorming, strategizing, envisioning the future. They shared laughter, debated ideas, and bolstered each other through inevitable setbacks. Arthur found himself drawn to Lily's steadfast optimism, her profound compassion, her innate ability to find merit in everyone, even after enduring hardships. He admired her fortitude, her bravery, and her unwavering conviction in justice. Lily, conversely, glimpsed a facet of Arthur previously concealed beneath layers of affluence and status. She witnessed his inherent kindness, his generosity, and his sincere desire to contribute to the world. She admired his resilience, his capacity to recover from a shattering betrayal and transmute his pain into something constructive. Their friendship blossomed, evolving into a rare and precious connection. They were confidants, collaborators, unwavering advocates for each other's aspirations. Two souls, brought together amidst turmoil, who had forged an enduring bond. One evening, seated on the porch of Arthur's newly refurbished community center, watching children frolic in the fading light, Lily turned to Arthur and smiled. "You know," she mused, "I think we're exactly where we're meant to be." Arthur mirrored her smile, his eyes brimming with gratitude and affection. "I couldn't agree more, Lily. I couldn't agree more."